The movie, Jeanne du Barry, begins with the early life of Jeanne Bec, a girl born into poverty in 1743. The opening sequence provides a contrast between Jeanne's humble beginnings and the extravagant world of Versailles, which she will one day enter. Jeanne is raised by her single mother, Anne, who works as a seamstress. Scenes of Jeanne's early life show her struggling to make ends meet. Her life is difficult, but Jeanne is determined to escape her circumstances. From the beginning, she is portrayed as ambitious and intelligent, with an awareness of the limited opportunities available to someone of her social standing. As Jeanne grows into a young woman, she moves to Paris in search of a better life. She works at a dress shop, where her beauty and charm soon catch the attention of wealthy men. The film takes time to show Jeanne's skill in navigating these relationships, using her wit and allure to advance herself. She becomes involved with several prominent figures in Parisian society, slowly climbing the social ladder. Here we see the beginning of Jeanne's transformation from a commoner to a woman of influence. She learns how to charm the wealthy and powerful, understanding that her beauty is a tool she can use to achieve her goals. It is during this time that Jeanne meets Jean-Baptiste du Barry, a libertine and social climber who sees an opportunity in Jeanne. Jean-Baptiste, recognizing Jeanne's potential, arranges for her to marry his brother, Guillaume du Barry. This marriage grants Jeanne the title of Madame du Barry, allowing her to be presented at the royal court. This is a significant turning point in Jeanne's life. She is no longer just a beautiful courtesan, but a woman with a title, ready to take her place among the French aristocracy. With this newfound title, Jeanne is introduced to the glittering world of Versailles. The film transitions to the opulence of the royal palace, where Jeanne first catches the eye of King Louis the Fiend. Johnny Depp portrays Louis as a king who is weary of his responsibilities, seeking distraction and pleasure in his later years. Jeanne's arrival at court offers him just that. Their first meeting is understated but charged with unspoken attraction. The king, who has recently lost his longtime mistress, Madame de Pompadour, is immediately captivated by Jeanne's beauty and wit. As Jeanne's relationship with Louis develops, she becomes his official mistress, much to the dismay of the court. The scenes between Jeanne and Louis are filled with both affection and strategy. Jeanne understands that her position depends entirely on the king's favor, and she skillfully maintains his interest. Their relationship is one of mutual benefit. Louis finds in Jeanne a source of comfort and joy, while Jeanne gains power, wealth, and influence through her connection to the king. However, Jeanne's sudden rise to prominence causes quite a stir among the nobility. The film delves into the complexities of court life, showing how the aristocracy views Jeanne as an outsider who does not belong in their world. Many of the courtiers openly despise her, gossiping about her background and treating her with disdain. The tension is especially apparent in Jeanne's interactions with Marie Antoinette, the young queen who sees Jeanne as a threat to the established order. Their relationship is frosty from the beginning, with Marie Antoinette refusing to acknowledge Jeanne's status. In these early scenes at court, the film highlights the rigid hierarchy of Versailles. Every movement, every word, and every gesture is scrutinized. Jeanne, though now an official mistress, must navigate this world carefully. Her position is precarious. Despite her intimate relationship with the king, she remains vulnerable to the whims of the nobles who wish to see her fall. These court scenes are filled with subtle power plays, with Jeanne constantly walking a fine line between acceptance and exile. Jeanne's rise at court is marked by lavish displays of wealth and power. The king showers her with gifts, jewels, dresses, and a grand apartment within Versailles. The film takes time to luxuriate in the decadence of court life, showing the extravagant parties, the opulent ballrooms, and the endless array of fine clothes and food. Yet beneath this luxury lies the growing discontent of the people outside the palace. The film contrasts the excesses of the aristocracy with the brewing unrest in Paris, where the seeds of revolution are beginning to take root. Jeanne, however, is largely unaware of this turmoil, focused instead on maintaining her position within the palace. One of the most significant moments in the film is Jeanne's official presentation at court. This is a ceremonial event where Jeanne is formally introduced to the rest of the royal court. The scene is grand and filled with tension as the nobles watch Jeanne with a mix of curiosity and disdain. Dressed in an elaborate gown, Jeanne walks through the halls of Versailles, fully aware that this is her moment to solidify her place at the king's side. The film builds the tension as Jeanne approaches the king, her every movement scrutinized by the courtiers. Louis, however, is clearly enchanted by her, and his public acknowledgement of her seals her place at court. This scene is a turning point for Jeanne, as it marks her full acceptance into the king's inner circle, despite the resentment it causes among the nobility. As Jeanne's influence grows, so too does the opposition against her. The film explores the internal politics of Versailles, showing how various factions at court conspire to undermine Jeanne's position. She becomes a target for those who feel threatened by her power, and the rumors about her continue to spread. Despite this, Jeanne remains confident, using her charm and intelligence to navigate the treacherous waters of court life. Throughout the middle of the film, the relationship between Jeanne and Louis deepens. The king, played by Depp, becomes increasingly dependent on Jeanne for emotional support. She provides him with a sense of escape from the burdens of kingship, offering him a carefree companionship that he desperately needs. Their scenes together are filled with a sense of intimacy, with Louis finding solace in Jeanne's presence. However, the film also hints at the growing instability within France, with scenes showing the unrest outside the palace walls. The contrast between the opulence of Versailles and the suffering of the people becomes more pronounced as the film progresses. As Louis XIV ages, his health begins to decline and Jeanne's secure position starts to waver. The film shows the king's gradual physical deterioration, with Jeanne by his side, watching helplessly as the man who has been her protector grows weaker. Jeanne, who has spent so much time cultivating her relationship with the king, now faces an uncertain future. She knows that once Louis is gone, her enemies at court will move quickly to remove her from power. The scenes of Louis's illness are filled with a sense of impending doom, as both Jeanne and the audience are aware that the king's death will bring about the end of her reign. Louis's death is a pivotal moment in the film. Depp's portrayal of the king in his final moments is poignant as Louis passes away, leaving Jeanne suddenly vulnerable. The film lingers on Jeanne's reaction to his death. She is devastated, not only by the loss of a man she loved, but also by the realization that her position at court is now in jeopardy. Without the king's protection, Jeanne's enemies quickly move against her. Jeanne is exiled from Versailles shortly after Louis's death. The new king, Louis XVI, and his wife, Marie Antoinette, have no place for her in their court. The film shows Jeanne's swift fall from grace as she is stripped of her wealth and status. The opulence that once surrounded her is gone, replaced by a stark and lonely existence. The contrast between her former life and her exile is stark, and the film portrays Jeanne's downfall with a sense of tragic inevitability. In the final act of the film, the French Revolution begins to sweep across the country. Jeanne, now living in obscurity, becomes a target for the revolutionaries. Her association with the monarchy makes her a symbol of the excesses of the old regime, and she is arrested during the Reign of Terror. The film depicts the chaos of this period, with scenes of violence and unrest in the streets of Paris. Jeanne, once a figure of power and influence, is now a victim of the very forces that she was once blind to. Jeanne's trial and execution by guillotine are the climax of the film. The scenes of her trial are filled with tension as Jeanne faces a revolutionary tribunal that has already decided her fate. Despite her pleas for mercy, the revolutionaries are determined to make an example of her. In her final moments, Jeanne is portrayed as vulnerable and terrified, a stark contrast to the confident woman who once ruled Versailles. Her execution is swift and brutal, a grim reminder of the cost of power and the changing tides of history. The film ends on a somber note, with Jeanne's death marking the end of an era. The revolution has swept away the old order, and the opulence of Versailles is now a distant memory. Jeanne's life, filled with both triumph and tragedy, serves as a reflection of the fleeting nature of power and the inevitable consequences of a society built on inequality and excess. Her execution is swift and brutal, a grim reminder of the cost of power and the changing tides of history. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe.